Okay, so as a left-wing content creator, I've unfortunately been accused of many things. Most notably, that I am a joke policer, that I think that edgy humor is indicative of horrible beliefs on the part of those telling the jokes, and I want to cut down on people using edgy humor, saying edgy things, and making edgy jokes and whatnot. This is just something I've generally been accused of a lot, especially like with my criticism of Dave Chappelle, my criticism of YouTubers like I don't know, insert any like comedian right-wing YouTuber that I've criticized in the past. I get a lot of accusations of hating comedy, not liking funny jokes, or being in favor of edginess, and I feel like, considering that I get this criticism a lot, now might be a better time than ever to make my treatise on my opinions on edgy humor. And whether you're left-wing and you already agree with me on this position, or you disagree with me on it, I hope you enjoy my explanation here for how I feel about this type of humor and when it's appropriate to be used and how it's used. And if you disagree with me, feel free to join my fan Discord and we can debate about it. Yeah, I want to keep the music playing, Cherry. Anyway, so I want to clarify, when I talk about edgy humor in this video, I'm not talking about jokes like Bush did 9/11. I guess you could say that's edgy, or like self-deprecating jokes referencing suicide or whatever. That's not the type of edgy I'm talking about. I'm talking more so about humor that, at least from the outside, is jokes that are about or involved with things like racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia. Edgy jokes specifically referring to what we would call like marginalized groups, right? Now, I believe there are 4 ways to tell these kind of edgy jokes. There's 4 ways to tell them, and this goes both ways. So, for example, the person telling the joke could be telling it in one way, and the person hearing the joke, or a crowd of people hearing the joke, could be taking the joke in a bunch of other ways. So you have to keep in mind that sometimes the intent of the person telling these jokes and the message received by the people hearing the jokes can be very different. So let's go over it. I think the first and most common form of edgy humor surrounding these topics like race, sexuality, gender identity, etc., is making fun of the absurdity of the concept, right? Like, for example, this is a joke that I make a lot on my channel, like women bad jokes. Sometimes I overdo them. I know that Vosh is getting in a lot of trouble right now because apparently his community is quite prevalent with the women bad jokes, but they're not really good jokes, and so it just makes people cringe and think they're serious. But if you watch my stream, you'll see that pretty regularly I make very absurdist women bad jokes. In ridiculous circumstances, almost always. I feel like for most of you in my chat, especially because you know my opinions on feminism and the fact that you guys know that I'm not sexist, when I, for example, in the scene when we were playing Destroy All Humans remake, when they revealed that Silhouette was a woman, and I said, "No, I hate women!" It's inherently absurd. The fact that I would be a gamer who's so upset about the villain of this game, whose identity was sort of covered up until this point, being revealed to be a woman. It's completely absurd. That's the punchline of the joke is, oh my god, there's people who actually think like this, and Zan is making fun of them. That's the intent of the joke, and I feel like most of the time that is the way that you guys receive it and understand the joke. Because otherwise, I imagine you guys in my extremely progressive, extremely feminist, extremely left-wing audience would probably start getting really mad when I made jokes like that. The worst that ever happens is you guys do the little clipped emote, because you guys know that, like, somebody could clip this out of context to make you look bad. Which is important. Because the fact that people out there will try to clip jokes that you make out of context to make it look bad proves my belief that there are different ways that people can take a joke and analyze it and understand the message from it, because jokes aren't just a thing we say to make people laugh. I mean, look at some of the most legendary comedians of all time, like, for example, George Carlin. I don't really think he ever told that many jokes that didn't have a message. All of his jokes were basically rants that he would go on where he is trying to persuade the audience onto his way of thinking. Maybe he dislikes this group of people that do this thing, or he dislikes this organization or this political movement that does this thing. He makes jokes about them, but the jokes have an actual message. There's sincerity behind them. When George Carlin said, "These conservatives don't give a fuck about the living. When you're pre-born, you're good. When you're preschool, you're fucked. They just want dead soldiers." He's making funny jokes and they're hilarious, but they're funny because they're true. And he's making an argument. He's convincing the audience. He isn't just making entertainment. And this is true, I think, of a lot of modern day comedy, especially if you look at your Dave Chappelle's or your really big stand-up comedians. I think the second reason that people tell these jokes, or the second way that people can tell these jokes for the intent of what's meant to be funny and how it can be taken, is shock value. So for example, there may be some edgy boy who just loves saying the N-word. And deep down, like, if you could splay this person's mind open and look at their opinions, like their true, deepest, darkest opinions, you would find they are not even a little bit racist. And yet they love to say the N-word all the time. They think it's funny as fuck. This is a very immature type of edgy humor. I think many people on the internet have had that phase. But the point of this humor is shock value. The idea is that you're telling this horrible, edgy joke, this very offensive thing, in order to shock people. And the fact that you're saying something so shocking is what adds comedy to it. Because, oh my god, I can't believe you would say that. It almost ties in with the absurdist view as well, but I think it's worth making a distinction there. And of course, someone could tell a really edgy joke with, malice behind it, and the audience may pick it up as just being a shock value joke without realizing the intent of the comedian was to push a racist narrative, for example. Now you're kind of being like convinced into these positions almost, it's kind of sus, right? Now, the third way that I think edgy humor is used is a mockery of people who genuinely believe that. That's kind of what the absurdity point is as well, but I think there's a difference here. So, for example, let me give an example of a mockery of the bigots in this scenario. There's a song made by Filthy Frank back in the day called Gays for Trump. And in this song, Filthy Frank, or Pink Guy is the one singing, but Pink Guy is a character that Joji plays, and Filthy Frank's also a character that Joji plays. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's called Gays for Trump. And it's Pink Guy singing. There are many slurs in the song. And it's a very edgy song. I recommend you go listen to it. It bops. However, the story of the song is about a really racist, homophobic, redneck white guy who supports Trump so much and hates minorities because he's secretly gay and wants to fuck Donald Trump, and he's hiding he's trying to cover his insecurities. And that's the point of the song. And it's a funny song, and it's very clear that it's meant to make fun of racists and bigots that actually believe in the kind of stuff that the lyrics of the song say, because it's from the perspective of this K-Kona redneck white dude who literally wants to fuck Donald Trump. And then there's the final way that I think edgy humor is used. And this is where I get a lot of controversy, because a lot of people seem to believe that this way of doing edgy humor is essentially non-existent. And that is in a specifically mocking way towards minorities. Now, I want to be clear here. I'm not talking about what joke you're telling. The joke could absolutely be, making fun of black people, for example, and it not to be racist. That's possible. Dave Chappelle does that kind of humor all the time, right? What I'm talking about here is intent and the way it's viewed by an audience or those hearing the joke. So, for example, Steven Crowder's... I think Steven Crowder's humor is absolutely meant to mock minorities. Steven Crowder's sense of humor, when he goes onto his show, is to put in some fake bucked teeth and then dress up as an extremely racist stereotype of an Asian man, and then start going Ching Chong or whatever, like while he's doing some weird dance or whatever. I don't know if you guys have seen the clip. Steven Crowder is very racist. He breaks TOS in every video, and YouTube still doesn't ban him, and he's got millions of subs. It really is just shameless. That joke, because it is a joke. Steven Crowder is making a joke, but it's not making fun of himself. It's not meant to be making fun of the absurdity of it. It's not meant for just shock value. I imagine there's a few of those things wrapped together, but I think most notably, Steven Crowder is making an argument. Steven Crowder's a comedian, technically. People consider him such, but he's also a political commentator. His job is to make arguments in favor of a certain political take and to be funny or entertaining to his audience as he does it. It's the same thing I do. I explain political things to you, and I make jokes along with it. And guess what? It's what I'm doing right now. I think the way Steven Crowder does that type of humor is meant to specifically push a narrative about certain marginalized groups when he does that type of edgy humor. Anyway, so do I think edgy humor is bad? Absolutely not. I love edgy humor. I really don't think there should be any bars or walls or anything like that preventing people from making certain types of jokes. I think what we need to acknowledge, though, and that I don't think a lot of people are willing to acknowledge, is that while jokes and humor can be completely, just fun time, just making funny jokes, making people laugh, well, it can be that. It can also be just a funny way of explaining a position, and that position could be good. For example, here's a joke. Hey, did you know that I don't know, what was the what's the statistic or something? It's like 40% for cops or something like that. If I make a joke like, hey, did you know that 40% of cops I don't know, can do a certain thing that sounds cool, Google cops 40% to learn more. Like, that's a joke, yes, and if you're in on the joke, then it's definitely funny. The thing is, 40% of cops apparently have admitted to domestic abuse against their partners. So the joke there is that, haha, it's a reference to like, oh, and the person who's hearing this meme wouldn't know that 40% of cops beat their partners, and so they're going to Google it and they're going to discover that. It's not just making fun of that idea, and of course making fun of cops for beating their wives, but it's also pushing a message. The point of the joke at the end of the day, the long-lasting effect of it, is meant to educate people that 40% of cops apparently hit their wives. I feel like that's way too high of a percentage point, or of like a percentage, for us to know. Like, I have no doubt it's true, but I feel like it's too high for us to know. I don't know. Please show Shoes Yellow Pillow Twitter video. I've seen that clip, Lonnie. That clip is what made me start changing out my pillowcases when I was a teenager, okay? I watched Shoe on Head since I was 17, okay? Every dude's had a yellow pillow, Lonnie. Every dude has a yellow pillow. We all do, okay? Anyway, that's more or less my position on it. I think humor is fine. I think edgy humor is fine. I think as long as you do it responsibly and like, the audience. Here's my problem. My problem is when someone who has nefarious motivations makes a certain type of edgy humor, and then the audience doesn't recognize those insidious motivations. That's my issue. Listen, as long as someone's funny enough, I don't care what their political views are if they're entertaining. Trust me, I've been very consistent on this. If Nick Fuentes was just fucking hilarious and the guy made you laugh every 5 minutes, I'd probably watch his streams. I'd hate him and not support him politically, but I'd probably watch his streams if they were funny enough. I mean, it sounds like good entertainment. However, my problem is when people refuse to acknowledge that jokes, while being meant, at the end of the day to make people laugh and to, be funny, can also have a message. And sometimes it's worth trying to figure out what that message is and whether or not it's a good message. And just doing that doesn't necessarily mean you're like a crazy SJW who wants to ban edgy humor. But that's more or less all I have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I really do appreciate it. It helps the channel out a lot. Comment down below. Follow my social media. Link down below as well. My Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And of course my fan Discord, where we do watch parties, we play games together, I talk to people, we even do debates in there as well. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube and ring the bell icon next to the subscribe button so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video. We're trying to hit 75k subs by the end of the year, and we need all the help that we can get because the YouTube algorithm is being real cringe right now. And of course, if you've got any extra money and you don't know what to do with it, and you just, you know, you're just like, I don't need this anymore, you can always support me financially, because this is my full-time job, and I do, you know, require support from my audience in order to keep doing what I do. You can support me financially by donating, gifting a sub, or subscribing yourself over on the website, xanderhall.com/live, or you can support me financially through different means on YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, and through Patreon. Right now, we're trying to raise $500 for a new streaming laptop so I can dedicate my streaming to a separate computer from this one, which will help with a lot of future streams, trust me. And yeah, I think that's everything, guys. Thank you so much for watching, no matter how you supported my channel, whether it be a like, a comment, a subscription, or even a financial donation. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.